Now, here's a really fascinating look at what happens to good people when you put them into a situation where some of them you say you are empowered to do whatever you want, and some of them you say you have to put up with whatever you are told to do. So this experiment was a real thing that happened in the 70s. They got 20 people, I think it's 20 people, 10 of them, they said, right, you are going to be prisoners, and the other 10 said, you are going to be the prison warders. And they were all students. I think they were paid a fee for being there or something. And they literally dressed up the warders and dressed up the prisoners and said, right, here's what we need to do. And so they were told you're not physically allowed to abuse the prisoners, but you can enforce certain rules. And they watched the whole thing unfold. Now, I don't know how you would react in that situation, but you'd be very surprised by what happened in this movie. In this reality, there's a movie which illustrates exactly what we're talking about. And I think the thing to do is show you that, and then we'll tell you what happened afterwards. So you've got the scenario, and I want you to think, which one would you be? And if you were, how much would you put up with from the other people before you took a stand? Let's have a look at this.
Would you rather be a guard or a prisoner?
I don't think I have the qualities to be a guard.
Prisoner.
Prisoner, I guess.
Prisoner. Sounds like it would be a little less work.
Prisoner.
Why's that?
Nobody likes guards.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. This experiment will be an extension of my research into the effects prisons can have on human behavior.
You're going to be pleased to know that you all have been chosen to be the prison guards.
But under no circumstances whatsoever are you to physically assault the prisoners in any way. So remember, just as you were watching the prisoners, my graduate staff and I will be watching you.
All right, gentlemen, we're gonna have ourselves a lot of fun.
Rule number 1, prisoners must remain silent.
This is an exercise period.
Okay, is it just me, or are these guys taking this thing a bit too seriously?
Why don't you give me 20 push-ups?
Look at this guy. Thinks he's John Wayne or something.
You address me as Mr. Correctional Officer. This might be an interesting 2 weeks after all.
Why don't you make up your bunk, 8612?
I did, Mr. Correctional Officer.
Well, that's not what I see.
Hey, what are you doing? It's just me now!
What was that?
You just hit him. You're not supposed to hit him.
Should we step in?
No, let the guards figure it out. Let's see where it goes.
Good evening, gentlemen. How about we make this one a night to remember?
This is all real. They won't let you go. They won't let us leave.
Those are not prisoners. Those are not subjects. Those are boys, and you are harming them.
Please! Let me out of here! I want out! I want out now!
You thought you were gonna get some playtime in the yard, boy? Is that what you thought this was gonna be?
Holy moly. Is that movie in, I have not seen it. Is that movie in Netflix?
I don't know. I've not checked it on Netflix, but you should be able to find it somewhere. But it's a genuine thing. It's probably on YouTube or something. But it's a real story. If you check out the reality of it, there's actually got footage of what was really happening and the violence that these guys were inflicting on each other just to see. Now, this was actually part of an experiment, or similar to an experiment that was done ages ago. That was a bit like Lord of the Flies. It's called the something cave experiment. Berman cave experiment. And we got two sets of kids, all 11, 12-year-olds, put them onto different parts of an island in the forest, and they basically told them that they didn't like each other. So they played some games, sports games, and whoever won got some really good stuff, whoever lost got nothing. And then they started twisting the knife a little bit by making sure that they ran out of food and to see what would happen with each other. And fights broke out. And what they did was then they started making less water. And fights broke out. But then the kids started working together when they were told that they could do it. And they bonded and became much closer as a direct result. But the rules that they had initially would have ended up with somebody probably being killed because of how it had been set out. So think about your choices. Think about the world you're in. Think about the things that are happening around you. And think about whether that helicopter view is where you want to stay. when this stuff is going on? Would you make a stand? Would you land and take a hit for somebody who's got injustice being done to them?
Yeah, it's insane, unbelievable. You know what? This makes me think. Throughout the week, we have been talking about Dr. Viktor Frankl. Dr. Viktor Frankl, he talks about the concentration camps, and he has this quote. He says, "Forces beyond your control can take away everything you possess except one thing, your freedom to choose how you will respond to a situation." And I think this is just so incredibly accurate towards what is happening right now. Let me just, I'm going to be playing just down here some video clips of right now how Auschwitz, the concentration camp in Poland, and it is just insane to see this situation. So Viktor Frankl, to put it into perspective, he was also part of the concentration camp, and while being part of this concentration camp,
yeah, I was just distinguishing that he was a prisoner in the concentration camp. He wasn't one of the guards. Just so we can put it in perspective as you continue the story.
And he was just basically observing how everybody was behaving. So now that we're talking about freedom, now that we're talking about they have taken away my freedom, now that we are living in a complete different way, and we think about what these guys have gone through, there's not even a slight comparison that we can talk about. But once again, we are getting into that situation where we need to understand that forces beyond our control can take away everything. Right now, we could be on uncertainty because of the coronavirus. Right now, we could be on uncertainty because of what's going to happen politically, or if we will be able to travel, or whatever it is. We are completely uncertain about this. But the only thing that they cannot take away from us is the way that we respond to this situation. And I think that it's a very important part for you to understand that if we are going to have a mental health pandemic, you have that choice. You should not be inside. You have that choice of separating yourself, having that helicopter view, having that awareness that you can either be the victim and be the victim and suffer, or actually get away from this by seeing things in a completely different way.
It's so true. And it doesn't mean that you can't change your stance either. You can be a victim and you can be a victor at the same time. You can choose when to be vulnerable and you can choose when to make a stand. The most important leaders of all time, if you ever get a chance to read the memoirs or the biographies about the people that changed the world, most of the time they have no idea what they're doing, but they're driven and they're taking steps to just make things happen because they've got a vision and they've got an idea that the goal is worth it. Even if physically they may not make it, the goal and the change to what's going to happen to the world was worth that risk. So it's worthwhile thinking about how you take a stand on this as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I honestly don't like being in lockdown. I would prefer right now, I should have been in Europe enjoying the fantastic European weather, and I should have been with my parents-in-law. I would have been able to go see my mother. I would have been able to do a lot of things. I mean, my events would not be canceled. Yes, Dave and I, we have been very much affected by this. And instead of actually just dwelling on the whole situation, we are seeing things in a different way because our level of awareness, our level of consciousness is very different. Now, as it says here, and it's also a quote from Viktor Frankl, he says, life is not primarily a quest for pleasure, as Freud believed, or a quest for power, as Alfred Adler taught, but it is a quest for meaning. And I think the biggest difference between Dave, myself, and other people that are not suffering because we're going to be locked down and you're going to give us a vaccine and we cannot use the mask because, of course, they're trying to take away our liberties. We don't think this way because we have a meaning. We're not all in the same boat. We're all enduring the same storm, but everybody has a different boat. And if you don't like the boat that you're in, change it. That is exactly what awareness is all about.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you really enjoyed it, then make sure you watch one of these two videos afterwards. And Ernesto, why are you staring up the top of my head?
Dave, your hair is actually thinning out.
Well, if it is, it's about the only thing getting thin on this show.
Here on this side, we have some more amazing videos for you to watch.
My name is Ernesto Verdugo.
And my name is Dave Crane. No, sorry, it's the other way around, isn't it?
Is it?